Hello everyone, I'm Al Grego, and this is the Season 8 finale of the Yes We Are Open podcast. I'm back in Ontario for this final episode, in a hamlet called Thornton, about an hour and a half north of Toronto, just south of Barrie. Now, if you're like me and you didn't know the difference between a town and a hamlet, let me spare you a Google. A hamlet is a small unincorporated human settlement, smaller than a village and without its own local government. Thornton's population, as of 2021, was just over 1,000, and it's governed by the township of Essa, so it qualifies as a hamlet on both counts. Thornton developed during the 1820s. In 1833, it was established as Henrysville, or Henry's Corners, named after an early settler named John Henry, who was the area's first teacher and schoolmaster. John Henry later became a postmaster when the post office opened in 1854. And then, in a cruel twist of fate, because the name Henrysville caused confusion in the mail system, the community was renamed Thornton, after Henry Thornton, who owned a grist and planing mill in the area. Thornton is a prototypical bedroom community. There isn't much to attract visitors. In fact, if you look up Thornton in Wikipedia, under attractions, it lists the volunteer fire station, the public library, and the hockey arena. Yet in the summer, thousands of people drive through the small community every weekend. This is thanks to their proximity to Highway 400, which is the main north-south route carrying people from the Greater Toronto Area to cottage country. This route is often congested, and as would-be cottagers try to find alternate routes, often one of those will send you through Thornton. This increased weekend traffic may not be too welcome by most residents of the quiet community, but it's definitely welcomed by the subject of this week's story, the Parlour ice cream. It's a gray and rainy Thursday morning for my visit. Not exactly summer vacation weather yet. I drove up Simcoe County Road 27. As I approached, Thornton reveals itself as a pretty typical small Ontario community. Farmland gives way to new housing development, giving way to a main street lined with century homes, and then the businesses start popping up. Auto repair, hair salon, convenience store. The businesses become more frequent as you approach the main and perhaps only set of traffic lights. But just before I hit downtown Thornton, something immediately grabs my attention. Amid the grayness of the day and the red brick hue of most of the structures, this big, bright, two-story green and pink building sticks out like a cotton candy-colored sore thumb. An upper terrace overlooking the street gives it an old-fashioned quality, but the vivid color makes it look like if Willy Wonka owned a saloon in the Wild West. This is the Parlour. Walking up to the building, I see that to the right, there's an open area with colorful picnic tables, a large sculpture of an ice cream cone, and other colorful and visually interesting features. The area is well shaded, and set in the back of the area is a food truck with the name The Fry's the Limit on the front. The Parlour is not yet open, but I notice the door to the food truck is, so I walk in that direction.
You're in the right place. I'm Rick.
That's Rick. He's one of the owners. He's getting ready to open for the day. But first, he takes me in the side door of the Parlour, where I meet Brenda, his wife, and the other owner.
Oh, she's already there.
Hi.
There you go.
I'm well, how are you?
Nice to meet you now.
Brenda shows me around the ice cream shop. She doesn't open for another hour, so we find a quiet corner and we set up for our interview.
Hi, I'm Brenda Coletta, and I am the owner-operator of the Parlour and the Fry's the Limit.
Now, which came first?
Actually, our food truck did, and we accumulated two of them, one in Brampton and one in Bolton. And then we sold off the Brampton location and bought this ice cream shop. So we've married together the food truck and the ice cream. When I was on the road with Lysol in my former position, I was the regional operations manager for the sales team for Canada. So I was retired for 2 years. I just really wanted to get back in touch with my family. I was always at work. And I thought if I'm going to ever work 12, 14 plus hours a day, in the future, it's going to be for myself, not someone else. So that's why the food truck came around. I wanted to control it. I wanted to do special events. I didn't want to go to an office ever again.
Sure.
At any rate, I was volunteering, and there was a man actually at the Caleigh Community Services. And he said, Brenda, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know. He says, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, exactly. I don't know what I want to do anymore. I've done the rat race.
Yeah.
And now I want to do something that just makes me feel good, makes someone else feel good. That's why I'm here volunteering. And he said, no, come here. There's got to be something. And I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a food truck. And I said, my reps in Quebec, they used to take me to different things that just sold one product. And I thought, that's something I could get my head around. And the poutine was great. Yeah. There the concept started. So he says, let's get you into a small business program and see what it's like to start a business from scratch. Right. It's a different thing than, like I said, executing something that someone hands to you. So anyway, I did that for about 8 months in this program and started the business plan. And I actually volunteered on about 60 different food trucks and different businesses. Oh, wow. Did a little undercover boss. Sure. And I was just trying to figure out who's selling the best French fry, who's doing the best poutine, and what are they doing that's making it terrific? Whether it's service, whether it was the quality of the product. I sourced all the ingredients that I wanted, understood how hard the restaurant business really is, because it really is just standing all day long. And then I said, okay, the next thing, let's look for a truck. Let's look for a location. And the more that we drove around and looked at different things that were used, we found we were buying other people's problems. So we designed our own truck, and then we created that and put it into Bolton. And we had it in front of a Winners Plaza, super busy plaza, but still it was the weirdest dynamic. It wasn't busy. So it was like, what's wrong with it? So we had another one in Brampton. We purchased that at a major mall in front of a Canadian Tire. And it was booming once we took it over. Like, we were very passionate. We're very customer service oriented. We changed the menu, made it the quality products that we had designed in my business plan, and it worked.
My name is Rick Coletta, and I'm co-owner of the Fries Limit and the Parlour.
Whose idea was it originally to start a food truck?
It was Brenda's idea.
And when she came to you with that idea, what did you think?
I thought she was crazy.
All right. What were you doing before that?
I was general manager of a window company.
That must have been a bit of a change.
Yeah, well, initially it was Brenda that was doing it all. I would go in the morning on my way to work, load up the water tanks, get everything in the warmers, get everything ready for her so she could go there at 11. And then I'd finish work, come back and work with her till 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. Then finally we bought a second one. Mm-hmm. And then that's when she convinced me to quit my job.
Fries the Limit. Fun name. Love the name.
We were sitting in a restaurant, actually, and I think we had quite a healthy dinner, and maybe there was a bottle of wine involved. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't understand. What should we call this place? Should it be this fry or that fry? And then someone said, the sky's the limit. And I went, oh, the fry's the limit. And that was it. And it just stuck. It just stuck.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
So you're from Toronto originally, you opened this fry truck. Now let's get you to Thornton.
So we figured it out. You know, it's all about location and having the foot traffic. In Bolton, we did not have the foot traffic because people were going north on the weekends. So that wasn't working, that location. So then this ice cream parlor came up and we said, oh my gosh, this is the location. But it wasn't successful anymore. It was really struggling. There were 3 ice cream parlors in this town. And we said, this one can be revitalized. There's a way. If we put the food truck with it, if we totally uproot ourselves, move to this location, make it our family home, which is crazy looking, I think we can make this turn around and make it a totally different business.
Now, fast forward, and now Brenda's talking about buying this ice cream parlor in Thornton. What did you think of that?
Same thing. Yeah. We're going to put all our money into an ice cream parlor now. We'd gone around for about 2 years looking at different things, trying to find a business where we complement with our fry truck. Sure. And so we wouldn't have to work as hard because we were working 7 days a week. We had no employees. We were just doing everything on our own. So actually, when it came up, this one looked good. We had the space to put the truck. We had everything. We owned everything. So it worked out really well for us.
We bought the place and the vision came. So within about 6 months, we transformed the look of the property and made it as crazy as it looks, the pink and the green and the purple. And I said to my husband, I said, it has to be seen from outer space. If we're going to be competing with 2 other shops in town, we have to nail this. It has to draw them in. I want every face in every car going by, going up north, turning and going, wow, what's that?
Yeah.
And then we have to match it. As soon as we're at the window and they see us or they come into our shop, I want them to say, oh my gosh, this was wonderful. Because I find with restaurants and like the drive-thrus of the world, they don't engage with you. And that's what was important to me about engaging with a human being again and creating that memory. And all they do nowadays is, can I take your order?
Yeah.
So when I hire staff, that's what I tell them. It's great to look fabulous from the outside. But if you fail, as soon as you interact with a customer, you're not going to grow my business. It's going to be a one and done. I want them coming back tomorrow. So that's what happens.
The Parlour, was already called that when you bought it?
No, it was another name.
Okay.
And what happened was every time that we were looking for supplies and I was inside and then maybe Rick was out at the trailer, he would come in and he'd say, what do you need in the Parlour? And I'm like, I need cups. I need this. Hurry, hurry. So we were always running because as you can see, I have very limited storage in here.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of storage out back.
Sure.
So he was always running. And there it was. I said, we can't be this name anymore. It just wasn't working for us. And I said, the Parlour is great because the building looks, I mean, it's a century home. 1856 it was built.
Wow.
And it just looked like the Parlour to me. And he was always saying it. So I said, there it is.
Balcony. Yeah.
And I just could see the people in the big hoop skirts and the whole business. And I said, that's what it should sound like, the Parlour. When we bought this shop, the provider was Central Smith Creamery, which it still is today. Okay. There's another brand, of course, out there that used to be in this town, and it's the more recognized brand in Canada or in Ontario. And we were going up against a big dog, in our opinion. We reached out to that business before we moved into this location and said, hey, we're going to be the new owner-operators. Can you help us out? We don't even know how much ice cream we should buy. We don't know what are the best flavors. Can you help us and guide us through this? They turned me down cold. They said, we're not interested. You're too small. I went, okay, great. We'll talk to you in 5 years. Central Smith came out, the sales rep that I'm still close to today, and he said, I would love to have a conversation with you. He said, I want you to pick for yourself. You seem passionate about what you want to create. So if it's not us, I'm okay with that. So we did the 6 samples, and it was like the Pepsi challenge. And we had only picked Central Smith Creamery. So it was pretty phenomenal, and it was crazy. So we looked at it and we went, I guess you're our people. We stuck with Central Smith, and the people were all across the street. And slowly, they started to come over. And they started to say, wow, this place was quieter before, but you have really good ice cream. And I said, we think it's the best ice cream.
It's great. I've never heard of it.
It's been around since 1896. Wow. It's still family run.
Where are they located?
In Peterborough. And they've just been so supportive with us. They helped us. And they were saying, you know, we understand what it's like to only bring in 20 tubs. Now we bring in 150. They're our major supplier. We have a secondary supplier. So now it's 180 tubs in a week. That's a large volume. Yeah. When you start with 17 tubs that lasted you 4 weeks, now it's a weekly thing.
Now, you mentioned you are seasonal, so what's your season?
We always start on March break, the Saturday of March break, and end on Halloween. And then we have 4 months off. So that was the other point of our life. We wanted to have something that gave us some personal time. We're not doing this 12 months a year. We're done with that. So November 1st until March break, we get together with family, we do a little bit of traveling, and we just recharge the batteries. During our season, we work 7 days a week, like most restaurateurs, 18 hours a day. We do deliveries like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we go till 9:30 at night. Wow. It's crazy.
What's been your best year so far here?
Last year, for sure. Yeah, it climbs every single year. We've been very fortunate. Ice cream is one of those businesses, and a food truck, if you're doing the product well, if it's super clean, it's recession proof, honestly. We've survived pandemic. We've survived recessions. Ice cream is just a success because people want to feel good.
Right.
Everyone usually has $4 or $5 to be able to feel good. And if they can take their whole family out for $20 or less, sit outside and get off those cell phones and not be in front of a screen, they love it. And that's what we provide here. It's all about the engagement.
Up next, Brenda and Rick think they found the perfect quote-unquote cottage business to help them enjoy their retirement. But with two other established competitors in the small hamlet, their start doesn't go so smoothly. And that doesn't even take into account the last 5 years. You know what's coming. How do they survive? Stay tuned to find out. You're listening to Yes, We Were Open. In 2017, Brenda and Rick Coletta made the bold decision in their retirement to buy an ice cream shop in Thornton, park their food truck, and make that their new home. It was a risky move considering there were already two other competitors in the market. Pair that with the uncertain business climate of the last 5 years, and you've got the perfect recipe for struggle. How did they deal with it? Let's find out. If I were to ask you to think of a time where the business was threatened here, either starting it up or where you and Rick thought, oh, we may not make it through this month, what would that be?
I'll tell you, we were sitting in front of the TV and watching the Prime Minister talk about handing out COVID relief and whatnot. And I went, oh man, we're in trouble if this has got to end in a couple of weeks, right? That was a major issue for everyone that had a business. But we're an outside location. That should be good. But in the beginning, I'll tell you, it was the financing. It was not the financing of, per se, getting a mortgage or anything like that. That wasn't the issue. The issue was seeing $7 and $10 sales because there was nothing here. Yeah. And our food truck was brand new. And it takes a long time to get the word out. You just keep feeding the business and the house. We bought it and there was all sorts of repairs. So you're just sinking. Yeah. So we had to sink all sorts of money in basic things. Your roof, this is wrong, that's wrong. It's a century home. It's just a money pit. So you're throwing money into a location and also marketing. I was renting billboards, all sorts of radio ads, and it was all about pumping the money into marketing. But the biggest burden and fear and struggle for us was just that we were depleting our savings. The money is just going towards the business just to keep the bills going. Pay the bills, keep it going. And it was like, have we made a mistake? Have we? And I said, no, we got to hold on. I don't care who I have to beg, borrow, or steal from. That's what we're going to do.
How close did you get to maybe calling it quits, or did you ever?
Second year. Just before the pandemic. Yeah. And I just said, I don't know what we've done here, but maybe we have to go back to Brampton or something like that. This is not going to work because there were 3 locations. Yeah. And you're just splitting that pie. So we became much more aggressive. We went back to our business plan and I said, what did I lay out in the beginning? And why aren't we following that? Okay, we pivoted when the location of one of our locations wasn't working. Yeah. But now we're faced with, okay, the people aren't coming, things are shut down. What can we do? We've just got to keep pushing social media. So Rick took over that. He now advertises in about 350, 400 groups-ish. And we just became a daily thing that we had to just keep doing the Instagram, doing this, trying to get the word out. And then the sales started to pick up. And it was strange, right? And we were like, something's going right now. But it was really just injecting that money, and losing hope was probably the biggest struggle.
Talk a bit about the thinking behind reconfiguring your shop to be walk-up only, right? Because up until the pandemic, you still had people coming inside.
Right. So when we were having people come inside and the baseball teams or a big group on a Sunday would come in, because the shop is only 300 square feet, we were finding people were lined up and they go down the sidewalk, but they were holding the door open. So not only were like, whether it's bees or flies, I'm a germphobe. I just couldn't handle it. It was too much. But the heat from outside was coming in. And back to the quality of the ice cream, I had this fabulous product with the freezer open and the girl's trying to scoop it and it's becoming soup. Yeah. And the people were standing there, it's taking too long. Yeah. And then it's affecting my customer service outside. People are standing there in heat. And I said, we've got to change this. So we stood outside and we said, how can we change this building so that no one comes inside anymore? And Rick stood in the middle of the shop and he went, hey, what if I put 2 plexiglass sliding windows like a drive-through, and we have an order desk and then a pickup window, and then I don't have to alter the structure of the building. We just slide the window up in the morning, put these plexiglass sliders in. And I went, problem solved, fabulous, let's try it. And I sat down in these little chairs and I sat at the window. I went, hello, can I take your order? And I felt like I was at something at McDonald's. And the people went, this is weird. I said, it's going to work great. Don't worry, it'd be fabulous. And the people started lining up and they were so grateful. The majority of people were thrilled. They said, I didn't want to go in your store anymore because I was so afraid of COVID. Sure. And suddenly they said, I can come here and I can sit outside and my kids are safe. I went, great, it works well. And then we kept them isolated and they moved on to the pickup window. And then here's the next struggle. If you go from 2 people inside or just myself and 2 young ladies or gentlemen, now I had to have 4 or 5 because people are standing outside. They don't know what's going on, and we have to move them quickly. We don't want them idly standing out there and being frustrated and bringing down the business because they just don't want to come back and stand out in a horrible line. So obviously our payroll went through the roof because all of a sudden I have crazy amount of hours. But that made people even happier, and it brought even more people in that they were like, wow, I can get an ice cream super quick and a meal, and I'm sitting outside. It's great.
When things started turning around, it sounds like it kind of happened during the pandemic. How relieved were you?
Very relieved because we thought we were going to lose everything. We couldn't have a patio. We couldn't do anything else. But it worked out well for us because people looked for places to go and they could come here. Yeah. And they could stand here. They could go sit in their car. We would just pile up the picnic tables when the patios weren't allowed to be open for restaurants. And people would just come and stand and eat their food. And people came for their birthdays and sat in their cars for their birthdays just so they could go somewhere and eat. So people found us and it was fantastic for us. It really helped us.
So let's talk about a few other things that have happened since then. Because when the pandemic ended, a lot of businesses say that they've had some of their best years since the lockdowns lifted and such. But hyperinflation happened. And you'd mentioned in part 1, everyone's got $4 or $5 in their pocket for happiness. But what if that $4 or $5 is now $6 or $7? Did you see the effect, or did you feel an effect there?
No, it's really not changed with ice cream. That's why I was saying that ice cream seems to be that feel-good food product. People don't seem to mind. We give a super generous serving. That's one thing as well with both of our businesses. Our food, our fries and our poutine are crazy large. So I always say we have big and we have ridiculous. And people are like, wow, no, it'll be tiny. I said, no. And originally we were selling like a $4 fry and it could feed 2 people. Like we're just very generous. And the same with the ice cream. We have huge portions. It's presented well, but it's not expensive. So people can have a kiddie cone. And I'm okay with that. If everybody has to have a kiddie cone, but it keeps another 2 people coming, we'll make it up in volume then. So we still have that original price of $4 just for a kiddie cone. And it's huge. It's just crazy huge. So people can always find $4. You know?
Okay. And then the more recent challenges that are hitting Canadian businesses, especially tariff wars and trade war. Your main supplier is Canadian from Peterborough, which is great, but have you seen any effect there?
Of course, there's ingredients. There's like an exclusive flavor, grape nut, and the cereal comes in from the United States. It's no longer offered in Canada, so they have to source their ingredients. It's almost like the pandemic of stockpiling things and to being able to offset the cost to the consumers, to people like myself and Rick. But they've kept their prices very reasonable. They need to make profit. They need to cover their costs, but they haven't gouged us. And there's other providers that I'm looking at their pricing, and they're really expensive. So they've helped us with our food truck and the other supplies that we bring in. We do have a few things that are American. We can't change that because this business started with a hot dog that's from the United States. We look at it this way. We are bringing in a product from the US, some of them, and it has become more expensive, but it goes back to that we sell quality. There are great quality Canadian products. That's not the issue. But we have always been this one particular brand of hot dog, and we can't change. We changed it once, and people were very unhappy. So we had to come back to it, and we don't want to change and start switching just because this is a current major issue with Canadians or Americans. The suppliers have stuck by us, and we're going to stick by them as well. 95% or more of our products are truly Canadian.
What's been the most challenging part of working here for you?
It's a toll. Working 8 months straight, 7 days a week. You get sick. You don't get to take the time off that you need to take off. Yeah. Brenda, same thing. When she gets sick, it's really hard because we are the face of our business and we like to be hands-on on everything. And it just takes a toll. Well, you get 4 months off. Yeah, it's a long 8 months to get to those 4 months. Right. And then in the 4 months off, like I replaced my knee this year. Oh. And then this November, I'm replacing my other knee. Yeah. So we get all our medical stuff done. So, no traveling, no anything else, just recuperating.
You need to be there. You need to be there every single day. I'm here 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. If you're going to plug employees in there, it will fail. You need to be the heart and the drive of this business.
It takes a toll on your body. When people come to us and say, oh, I'm thinking about opening a fry truck or I'm thinking about opening an ice cream, I think it would be fun. It's not fun. I mean, it is fun if you have the right employees and everything else. Like, we've learned to love it. Absolutely. And we have fantastic employees. So many great employees. But yeah, it's not fun starting out. It's hard work, and you got to be the person in the face to get the business going.
If you're not that personality type, don't start. But if you have a simple concept, anyone can be successful with anything. But you have to just do one thing really well and be passionate about that. And that's how we've been.
Was there anything that Moneris did to help you during any of this struggle?
Yeah, honestly, it's that tap feature was great. Before, we were doing everything manually. Everything was so difficult, right? And this was just speed of service, being able to not touch that machine, not sanitizing things, not dealing with as many parts. It was great, and it just worked really well. And when we set it up outside, I need to move people quickly. So they're just tap, tap, tap every single time and moving on. Instead of inserting the card, they're not doing any of that nonsense anymore. And it worked well for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming up after the break, we find out what the future holds for the Parlour ice cream. Welcome back to Yes, We Are Open. It seems Brenda and Rick Coletta's commitment to customer service and a quality product has really paid off. Their business has grown each year since the pandemic, and they've become a popular spot for cottagers on their way up north every weekend in the summer. So what does the future hold for the Parlour ice cream? Let's find out. What does the future look like for the Parlour?
That's a great question. Rick is in his early 60s. I'm almost 60. And we've done this 13 years. Everything that I've approached in life, I'll do it for 5 years. We'll see. So I feel that we've got this to a really comfortable place. It's busy, it's well known. We're noted in publications as being #1 on road trips, all sorts of things. The little shoe train that could. Yeah. And that was always my sort of thing. Doesn't matter what struggles, we can make it to the top. And now I do tell people, we get approached every year. Oh, I want to buy your place. I want to buy your place. Hey, everything's for sale. It was for sale the first day we bought it. Okay. It's always for sale. That doesn't mean that it's on Realtor. If the right person came along and we felt that all of our blood, sweat, and tears were worth it to that person, and the price is right, of course, absolutely, I'd love to share that with someone.
I look at it as just building the business up as big as we can get it, and then selling it and retiring, to be honest with you.
That's what would make us happy, to be able to drive by in another 10 or 15 years and see that someone did even bigger things. Sure. And at least we started it, and that it's the anchor, and that they can be equally successful. In the 8 years that we've ran this, a lot of people have come to us, and not about so much our business. Can you help me? And I said yes, because in the beginning, 60 different entrepreneurs helped us. Local people, food trucks, people in the business, and that's what we're here for.
Okay, last question. Seeing what you both have built here in the last 8 years, how do you feel?
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, I'm so proud of her. She's the face. Like, we walk into Barrie, we walk into a store. Hey, it's the ice cream day. Nobody knows who I am. I'm in the fry truck, right? Nobody knows. Except for people when I have to help out in here and I'm at the window here. What are you doing in here? You don't know how to work in here. Everybody knows her. She just built this business up so great.
I feel great. I feel accomplished. You know, what's on the horizon? I've often joked. I was once in a sales presentation meeting in New York City, and they walked around and they said to the 10, we were all like directors sitting around this table, and they said, okay, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do different than what you're doing today? And I said, I think I would always be in sales, but I think I need to rescue a donkey in Spain or something and walk up and down the beaches of Aruba selling beer for $1 or something, or ice creams that are prepackaged or something. But I still want to just see people, have small conversations, engage with people, and love life. Maybe not this large scale of retail and the 7 days a week thing, but that's what we'll be looking forward to doing. Something that's a little bit slower, but still with people.
Brenda and Rick, is the parlor open?
Yes, we are open!
Perfect. That's the story of the Parlour ice cream. There's so many repeated themes from this season in this week's story. Things like keeping things simple, producing a quality product, emphasizing customer service, and they're all certainly very important. But I'd like to focus on something I keyed in on early in Brenda's story that's possibly the most important thing of all, and that's the development of a good business plan. I know, planning isn't my strong suit either, but on multiple occasions in this story, we heard Brenda mention her business plan. And when things seemed most dire, she went back to the business plan to help her get her business back on track. A lot can happen while running a business, things you can't plan for. You need to be agile and make adjustments. But in the end, a good business plan isn't just about steps and process. It's about setting up goals and expectations, assessing potential risks and opportunities, and providing a roadmap to increase your likelihood for success. Brenda had a solid plan, and she worked that plan successfully. She made her adjustments along the way, like when her one food truck wasn't busy, and then again when they bought the ice cream shop in Thornton. But in the end, her plan helped her remain focused on her goals, providing a quality product and excellent customer service. And to put it in the context of this week's story, the overall goal of a business plan doesn't change, but there are many adjustments to the path to get there. Just like the cottagers' plan to head north doesn't change, but if they're lucky, their path will divert them through Thornton and the Parlour, where Brenda, Rick, and their friendly staff will be more than happy to feed you and set you back on your way to your goal. Yes, We Were Open is a Monair's podcast production. I'd like to thank Rick and Brenda for taking the time to share their story. You can learn more about the Parlour at thefriesthelimit.com. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. For more information on this podcast, visit our site, yeswewereopenpodcast.com. If you're a Canadian small business owner or know of one with an interesting story of perseverance to tell, I'd love to help tell it. You can contact me at podcast@monair's.com. And that does it for another season. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'd like to thank everyone on Monair's Marcom team for their help and support in putting this season together. There are too many names to mention, so please check the show notes for their names. I'd like to also thank the amazing merchants who welcomed me into their place of business and allowed me to tell their stories this season. Prairie Flying Service, Basket Cases, Base Studio, Zippity Zoom Toys, Creative Kids, Bushwhacker Brew Pub, Tumblr's Pizza, and The Parlour. Please support them by supporting their business. Production on Season 9 will begin in the fall, so expect a whole new season of small Canadian business and their stories by October of 2025. Keep an eye on this feed, and I'll post updates as Season 9 approaches. And of course, as always, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening, subscribing, and spreading the word. Your support has once again helped this podcast win the 2025 Best B2B Branded Podcast Award from the Quill Podcast Awards. So a huge thank you to all of our listeners. Without you, this would not be possible and nearly as much fun. On behalf of all of us at Monair's, sincerely, thank you for listening to the Yes, We Were Open podcast. I'm Al Grego. See you in Season 9.